Chapter 91. The Geniuses of Class 1. The eccentric boy laughed. But then, I want to see what kind of skill you guys have that will move us to Class 2. His eyes brightened as he spoke. He tensed. Then his body suddenly grew a bit and seemed to become exceptionally soft. 2 yellow rings appeared from beneath his feet as cyan scales emerged from his neck. His eyes turned into vertical slits. 2 rings. A sole grandmaster. Tang Wulin's trio were all startled. Even though their opponents were Class 1, they should have been of a similar level. They were all just 9 years old after all. The fact that he was already a sole grandmaster was absolutely shocking. Tang Wulin took a step forward to place himself in front of Douluo and Shi. Despite the powerful aura of the other party, Tang Wulin actually felt joyful. He didn't feel fearful at all. A white soul ring rose from beneath his feet and blue silver grass rushed out from his palms. Haha. Trash with only a single 10-year soul ring dares to be so arrogant. This is just too funny, but you can be at ease. I won't put you guys in your place right now. I'll wait until we're on the competition stage before I do so. I'll let you know the difference between geniuses and trash. I am Wei Xiaofeng from 1st grade Class 1. Remember my name. Having said this, Wei Xiaofeng withdrew his soul power, causing his body to return to normal before turning around, proudly leaving. Bastard. Shi wanted to rush over, but Tang Wulin's blue silver grass was already wrapped around his waist, restraining him. Don't be fooled, Tang Wulin said. He wants us to act first so that he won't receive any punishment from the academy. Just wait until we get on stage. A cold light flickered within Shishi's eyes. Are 2 soul rings really that amazing? Humphrey. We'll just have to wait and see, Tang Wulin said. I'm going to the workshop first. Then, Teacher Wu isn't going to help us analyze our opponents. He always left it to us to adapt. So you two go think of a way to investigate the situation in Class 1 and we'll meet up to discuss it tonight. Although Shishi wasn't completely convinced, the 3 of them still felt quite a bit of pressure when Wei Xiaofeng revealed his 2 soul rings. Faced with this kind of opponent, how would they secure victory? 9 years old and he had 2 rings. He was definitely a genius among geniuses. It had to be said that under normal circumstances, Class 1s of the other grades wouldn't have anyone with 2 soul rings until at least the 3rd grade. Shishi questioned whether or not he himself was truly a genius. After all, there was still a gap between him and someone with 2 rings. All right. We'll teach them a lesson tomorrow, Shishi said as he walked off with a gloomy expression. Yue walked over to Tang Wulin's side, an easy smile on her face. No need to pay attention to them. We'll definitely beat them. She patted Tang Wulin's shoulder before she also moved to leave. Yue's petite body was quickly swallowed by the crowd. Tang Wulin clenched his fist a few times. His teammates were so strong, yet, as their captain, his strength was so modest. Regardless of whether it was for the sake of survival or for becoming stronger, he needed to quickly obtain the ice crystal fruit and scarlet flame fruit. Mang Tian hadn't arrived yet when he got to the workshop, so Tang Wulin began working on the forging task he'd accepted the week before. With his continued practice of the 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers, second-rank blacksmith tasks were already easy for him. None of them resulted in defective products, and he was now able to accept 2 tasks each week. As such, he was able to make even more money. Tang Wulin took out all of his savings. After counting it all, he discovered he had over 320,000 federal coins. Although it was still short the price of the ice crystal fruit and scarlet flame fruit, it wouldn't be too hard to make up the difference if he could accept 3rd rank tasks. Tang Wulin sat there staring blankly at a chunk of metal he had 100 refined. Ever since he had arrived in East City, many things had occurred and changed his life. He had encountered many things that didn't even exist in Glory Bound City. After several months, the hesitation in his heart gradually faded away. A wonderful world had opened up to him, and along with improving his strength, he had found value in being a part of the Blacksmiths Association. His self-confidence had increased by a lot. He always kept the words his father had said to him within his heart before he had left. You must always look forward. That's right. I can only move forward to see an even more wonderful world. Right at that moment, the sound of a door opening came from outside. Tang Wulin hastily went over to give his greetings. Mang Tian was dressed in ordinary grey clothes, giving him a travel-worn appearance. Teacher, Tang Wulin hastily called out in respect. N. Mang Tian responded with that single grunt as he took off his coat and went in. Tang Wulin had long since become accustomed to his teacher's habits. Every single time Mang Tian visited, he would inspect all of the finished goods and Tang Wulin's forging progress. After hanging his teacher's coat, Tang Wulin quickly followed him into the workshop. Mang Tian was playing with the uncommon metal Tang Wulin had just finished. As he became increasingly familiar with the tasks of the Blacksmiths Association, the tasks Tang Wulin accepted grew more difficult. For example, these kinds of 100 refined uncommon metal tasks were already at the peak of the 2nd rank. He would earn over 30,000 federal coins each time. N. Not bad. Your purification is precise. Mang Tian nodded. Considering how strict he was, being able to say such praise was already amazing. This is all due to teacher's guidance, Tang Wulin quickly said. Mang Tian put the metal in his hand down and turned to face him. Have you learned how to be glib too? Tang Wulin stuck out his tongue. No. Those words are from my heart. Mang Tian said. Don't you have something to talk with me about? Out with it. Although Tang Wulin had already made a firm resolution, when he faced his teacher, he still hesitated for a moment, but it was just a moment's hesitation that was overcome by the crisis of his survival. Teacher, I want to take the 3rd rank blacksmith's test, said Tang Wulin after he drummed up his courage. Mang Tian was stunned for a moment. Why? I need more money to improve myself, answered Tang Wulin. Mang Tian regarded him in complete silence. Tang Wulin felt nervous. Having finished speaking, he lowered his head, awaiting his teacher's criticism. He clearly understood the reason Mang Tian wasn't allowing him to take the 3rd rank blacksmith's test. While he had never doubted his teacher before, right now he really was too desperate for money. How are you going to improve? Mang Tian asked after his long silence. Chapter 92. Distant Parents. Tang Wulin said, I wish to practice the 1,000 refinements more and earn a better income. After saving enough money, I'll be able to buy a spirit soul and eat better food at the academy. My eating ability is too great and nutritious food is too expensive. Mang Tian looked at his growing disciple, who seemed to have become even taller during the last 3 months, and his expression began to soften. He sighed gently, then said, maybe I was wrong. Actually, you already had qualifications of a 3rd rank blacksmith when you succeeded at the 1,000 refinements. Your soul power may not be strong enough, but your innate divine strength makes up for that, especially considering the fact that you are able to enter the mental state and completely devote your being to forging and sense the life within the metal. At your age, that's simply remarkable. One of the reasons I wasn't rushing you to become a 3rd rank blacksmith was because I was afraid of showing you more of the world of blacksmithing, and that you would grow arrogant of your talent. This would bring ruin to your future. Yet, I overlooked the fact that regardless of whether one were a soul master or a blacksmith, they all require an enormous amount of resources to cultivate to high levels. The only person you can rely on is yourself. I really was too selfish. Tang Wulin looked at his rueful teacher as if in a daydream. Teacher, so you're allowing me to take the 3rd rank blacksmith test? Mang Tian nodded. Take it. Since my disciple is such an exceptional genius in the realm of blacksmithing, what kind of reason could I have to not let him blossom and shine? Having received his teacher's approval, Tang Wulin joyfully said, Thank you, teacher. Thank you, teacher. Mang Tian's expression returned to normal as he seriously said, You don't have any reason to be so happy right now. I must remind you that after becoming a 3rd rank blacksmith, you'll have reached a higher status within the blacksmithing world. I'll ask the association to keep quiet about you for a while, so you'll need to keep a low profile too. Yes, teacher. Tang Wulin promised respectfully with haste. Wulin, I've been stuck at the level of 6th rank blacksmith and have been unable to enter the realm of Saint Craftsman for a long time. This isn't because my efforts have been lacking or that I wasn't gifted enough. Rather, it's because I don't have the soul power necessary to become a Saint Craftsman. In the last 10,000 years of our Douluo continent, soul devices have developed at high speed and become modernized. The superiority of soul masters has gradually faded away. Even an ordinary person is capable of using most of the available soul devices now. Moreover, soul devices possess formidable attack power, which has allowed them to completely change the entire continent. Regardless, I must tell you that our Douluo continent is still founded upon soul masters. Thus, no matter the occupation, soul power and soul master ranks are crucial in order to reach the highest levels. For example, a divine rank mega master must possess at least 8 soul rings. One must be at least a soul Douluo to reach such a level. For us blacksmiths, it's exactly the same. Without 7 soul rings, a martial soul's true body, and a thorough understanding of one's martial soul, it would be impossible to become a Saint Craftsman. After encountering this problem, I knew it was impossible for me to become a Saint Craftsman in this lifetime. This is the reason why I told you to focus on soul power cultivation when you got here. With your innate divine strength, when you become a 5th rank craftsman, you'll need tremendous spiritual power and soul power to support you. Thus, you must put forth your greatest effort towards cultivation and you cannot be stingy with your money. Eat lots of nutritious food at the academy too. Yes. Mang Tian was usually a man of few words, so when Tang Wuling saw him so rueful, his heart tensed up. Although he was still young, his soul power was still inferior to his peers. Becoming a powerful soul master, that was easier said than done. All he could do was redouble his efforts and stubbornly cultivate. Mang Tian hand searched his pocket, fishing out an envelope that he handed to Tang Wuling. There's another matter I came to settle this time. Read this letter. It's from your father. Ah. Why didn't Dad just call me on the soul communicator? He was busy cultivating every day in order to improve himself, so it had been a week since the last time he'd called home. Read it and you'll know. Mang Tian looked at him with eyes full of meaning as he nodded his head. Tang Wuling had a bad premonition as he hastily opened up the envelope. Inside of the envelope were 2 cards and a letter. Tang Wuling looked at the letter first. His father's familiar handwriting was scribbled all over it. Tang Wuling, my son, by the time you receive this letter, your mother and father will already be someplace far. Father has always been selfish. I've let you suffer so many hardships just so I could live a peaceful life. Even when it came time for your spirit soul, I couldn't do anything and you had to settle for a trash spirit soul. That night, your father cried. It was because I didn't have the ability to help you that you were forced to learn how to forge at such a young age. Although I don't regret it, I still made you go through so many hardships. Father is sorry. In fact, father is a mecha designer. In those early years, I had drawn the attention of some powerful figures due to one of my designs. They wanted to completely control me, but I chose to escape with your mom to Glorybound City. From then on, we lived in seclusion as ordinary people, but it seems that an ordinary person's life isn't suitable for me. For your sake, I will resume my old trade. As for the 2 cards that came with this letter, one of them is your identity card, while the other is a bank card that can be used throughout the continent. The bank card contains the money I accepted from signing the contract to be that powerful figure's mecha designer. There's 1 million federal coins in there, enough for you to buy 100 year spirit soul. This is all that I can do for you right now. Wait for your father to earn even more money. I'll send it to that cards account. Son, you are gifted and must walk towards the apex. Don't look back and only continue walking forwards. Remember the words father told you. In this world, the only person you can rely on is yourself. I believe that with your strength and ability, you will definitely be able to reach the pinnacle. You don't need to look for us. We're in a place that is impossible for others to find. We won't be contacting you anymore, but I know your soul communicator number. Just wait until our situation has settled down. Then I will come to find you. Your father and mother loves you. We will love you forever. Tang Wuling stared at the first line of the letter, his entire body and heart seizing up as he did so. His father's words had been extremely ordinary, but they were filled with his love for Tang Wuling. Dad, Mom. Tang Wuling suddenly screamed before turning around, trying to run out. In the next moment, however, he ran straight into Mang Tian, whose body was like a copper wall or an iron bastion. Mang Tian grabbed onto his shoulders with both hands. They're fine. They'll just be far away from you for a while. Wuling, you must stand strong. Tears streamed uncontrollably from Tang Wuling's eyes. It's for my sake. All for my sake. All to earn money for my sake. Mum and Dad have gone far away for my sake. At that moment, 3 months of yearning for his family attacked his heart all at once. He tightly gripped the letter and broke down crying. Chapter 93. I want to become strong. Mang Tian simply held onto Tang Wuling's shoulders without giving him any more advice. At this time, letting him vent all of his emotions was the best solution. After crying for some time, the sounds of Tang Wuling's weeping gradually died out. He raised the letter in his hand and read it over once more. Whenever he read the words your mother and father loves you, his tears would once again begin to flow out uncontrollably. Mum and Dad are gone, and I don't even know where they went or when I'll see them next. Naya is gone too. My whole family, gone. Do you want to search for them? Mang Tian's pensive voice called out. Tang Wuling raised his head, facing his teacher with tearful eyes. Mang Tian said, if you wish to find them, then you must first become powerful. Your father is an outstanding mega designer, but because he is too outstanding, he was threatened by others. Of course, his excellence also secures his safety, but someone with the power to take him away is definitely not someone you can match up to right now. If you want to find them, then you must first become strong enough. The current you is simply too weak. Teacher, Tang Wuling shouted, I want to become strong. Tang Wuling proved strong in the end. After venting his feelings, he was gradually able to steady himself. Mang Tian spoke with him about some matters regarding the 1,000 refinements before leaving. Tang Wuling also returned to the academy shortly after. Within his storage ring were 2 new cards. His identity card allowed him to go anywhere on the continent, while the bank card carried the money his father left him, a hefty million federal coins. Tang Wuling's wealth already surpassed 1,300,000 federal coins, and he wasn't too far off from being able to afford both the ice crystal fruit and the scarlet flame fruit. For the current him, spirit souls were no longer the most important thing. The most important thing was for him to ensure his own survival by absorbing the soul of the golden dragon king sealed by the first seal before he reached 10 years of age. Wuling, what's the matter? When he ate dinner with Shishi and Dou that night, they both discovered that there was something off about him. Even though his powerful physique had already gotten rid of the puffy eyes from his crying, his dull expression clearly revealed his sorrow. He was still a child and didn't understand how to hide his own emotions yet. Tang Wuling shook his head. Nothing's wrong. That's right. What have you found out about Class 1? Dou and Shishi exchanged a glance, both of their expressions seeming to grow serious. Shishi heavily said, we've run into some trouble. Tang Wuling was roused from his dispirited self. He understood how arrogant Shishi usually was, so something that would make him utter the word trouble meant that their opponents would be difficult for them to handle. Shishi said, our Class 1 this year is actually called the strongest new class in the last 100 years. It's no wonder that the director could throw me into Class 5 without batting an eye. Strongest new class? Tang Wuling said. How strong are they? Don't tell me they have 3 people with 2 soul rings. Shishi looked at him in shock, while Dou had a meaningful look in her eyes. The 2 of them spoke in unison. How did you know? Tang Wuling was equally as dumbstruck. No way. All 3 have 2 soul rings. Are they really new students? Dou said, we're certain. We saw Wei Xiaofeng today, and we found out that he isn't even the most powerful of the 3. I don't know if teacher Wu picked us 3 to battle because of those 3 students in Class 1 or not, but I know for certain it will be hard for us to win this upcoming battle. Tang Wuling's expression seemed to have froze. All 3 of them only had 1 soul ring. Even if Shishi had twin martial souls, Dou was still an ordinary 1 ring soul master. Either way, all 3 of them only had 1 soul ring each. The gap between 1 ring and 2 rings was simply huge. When they faced Guan Long that time, all 3 of them had to work together to match him. Even then, they had only prevailed due to Tang Wuling's golden dragon king power. But now, they were about to face 3 2-ring opponents. How could they fight this kind of battle? Dou said, all for the sake of that class. The academy recently issued out some new rules for the class promotion tournament. Classes can no longer skip grades anymore. They can only climb up to a better class number. Clearly, they're afraid that this year's Class 1 will sweep away the upper grades and influence them negatively. Right now, Class 1 has the most qualified teachers. Clearly, the academy values them highly. Reportedly, they're considering letting them skip grades right now. Their opponents were actually so powerful. Tomorrow, they would be facing these powerful opponents on stage. This was simply too sudden. In the face of such powerful opponents, did they even have a chance of securing victory? He could tell from Shishi and Dou's expressions that their confidence had already been shaken. As for himself, among the 3 of them, he was, in reality, the weakest one. The 3 of them sat there silently. Tang Wuling was so disturbed that he had actually lost his appetite. Right at that moment, a piece of news was suddenly broadcast in the dining hall. Teachers and students, pay attention. Teachers and students, pay attention. The following announcement is an emergency announcement. Our meteorology department has notified us that a strong tropical storm will be passing by tonight. This storm is an extremely powerful typhoon and is forecasted to persist for a whole week. Thus, for the next week, students are advised to not leave the academy and all classes will be suspended during the typhoon. Please wait quietly in your dorms. The class promotion tournament will be temporarily suspended until the typhoon has passed. A typhoon struck? East City was a coastal city, and encounters with typhoons was a normal occurrence, but they never expected that a typhoon would strike at such a fortunate time. The typhoon had arrived. What Tang Wuling paid the most attention to was the last few words. The class promotion tournament was suspended. The trio looked at one another. This meant they had another week to improve themselves and investigate their opponents. However, it didn't make much difference. What could they possibly accomplish in only a week's time? Even for Shishi, who was the closest one to reach 2 rings, it was virtually impossible to cultivate to that level in a week. Tang Wuling's expression suddenly froze as he suddenly stood up and walked away. Wuling, where are you going? She hastily chased after him and asked. Tang Wuling didn't even bother to turn around as he answered. I'm going to go settle a small matter. The typhoon is about to hit, so I need to leave quickly. Having said this, he quickly rushed out of the dining hall. As he watched Tang Wuling's departing figure, she turned to Gu Yue and doubtfully asked, I've always felt that there's been something bothering him these last 2 days. Have you felt that too? Gu Yue said, I think so too, but he's still much calmer than you. You should change yourself for the better. She furiously said, is it even possible for you to not pick on me? Gu Yue leisurely responded, not possible. You've always been a bad example anyway. Arrogant, prideful, and not particularly strong either. Wuling is different. He's steady, reserved, and has unlimited potential. She stood up in indignance. I won't argue with the girl. His voice had been a bit loud, drawing the attention of all of the girls within the dining hall. Hey. She suddenly sped away, disappearing quickly like a wisp of smoke. Tang Wuling hadn't just rushed out of the dining hall, he had even rushed out of the academy. His heart had been set ablaze and now, a powerful voice unceasingly resounded in within his heart. I want to become powerful, to become mighty. I wasn't strong enough, so Nai left. I wasn't strong enough, so Mum and Dad left. I'm not strong enough, so I'm a burden to my teammates. I want to become strong. Chapter 94, Witnessing a Miracle. If it was the past, then Tang Wuling would have had no choice but to accept their loss. Now, however, he found out about the Golden Dragon King and the possibility of growing stronger. The seals on the Golden Dragon King endangered his life, but also gave him a chance to change his destiny. 1 week. He was left with a week's time. This was the time given by the oncoming typhoon. Dad sacrificed his freedom in exchange for 1,000,000 Federation coins. I need to use that money to strengthen myself. Tang Wuling took out his soul communicator and quickly pressed one of the few numbers stored on the device. Wuling. Very quickly, a warm voice could be heard from the other side. Tang Wuling's words were concise. Grandmaster Ken, I want to start my 3rd rank blacksmith ranking examination. Can I do it now? On the other side of the soul communicator was Grandmaster Ken Yue, a Grandmaster rank blacksmith. Isn't it too late now? Wait, what? What did you say? 3rd rank craftsman. Ken Yue didn't have much of a reaction at the start, but when he understood what Tang Wuling was saying, he was so stunned that his voice rose a pitch. Not possible. Tang Wuling stopped his footsteps. His eyes were clouded with disappointment. It seemed that there was typhoon today again, and it would be suffocating if he couldn't sit for the examination. When would the typhoons reach the city? What about his own plan? His warm and passionate heart grew colder. You just wait a moment, Ken Yue said in a deep voice. At this moment, Ken Yue was dining in a restaurant, but he wasn't alone. Sitting opposite him was the president of East Sea City's Blacksmiths Association, the St. Craftsman ranked Mu Chen, as well as his precious daughter, Mu Zai, who gave you such a shock just for taking the 3rd rank examination. Mu Chen asked with a grin in his face. It was good for the association to have a new blacksmith join their ranks, but he was rather curious about the shock on Ken Yue's face. Ken Yue's expression changed, and there was a hint of strangeness to it. You wouldn't have guessed it right. It's the kid. Who? Mu Chen was surprised for a moment, but then a youthful face appeared within his mind. Ken Yue nodded towards him. He said that he wanted to come in now to complete the 3rd rank examination. But it's too late now, you see. Mu Chen's eyes shone with shock as he took in a deep breath to balance his agitation. He spoke deeply. Tell him to come by now. The examination may proceed without further ado. All right. Ken Yue removed his hand from the mic and spoke through it again. Come then, Wuling. You can come now to take on your ranking examination. This is by the president's request. Yes, I shall be there immediately. Tang Wuling's excited voice was heard from the other side of the communicating device. Mu Zai gave her father a suspicious look, then gave one towards Ken Yue. Dad. What are the two of you talking about? Why is there a 3rd rank examination happening at this late hour? Why did both of you look shocked? Mu Chen sighed lightly and rubbed his daughter's head. Girl, there are people above people and heavens above the heavens. That person is Tang Wuling. Mu Zai grew stunned when she heard this before she jumped up abruptly like a released spring. No, this isn't possible. How old is he? How could he be entering the 3rd rank craftsman examination? To pass the 3rd rank requires the 1,000 refinements. Mu Chen told Ken Yue, please call for the bill. We're going back. Seeing is believing, so let us witness this miracle. When Tang Wuling reached the association, the skies had already darkened, but the gates were wide open. There weren't any lights within the gates. However, it's late. Has everyone finished work already? Not only had East Sea Academy received the news of an oncoming typhoon, the Blacksmiths Association had also received the news as well. Most of its staffs had gone home earlier because of that. None of the reception staff were in when he walked into the main hall of the association. Tang Wuling took the elevator up to the 3rd floor. As the elevator doors opened, he found himself looking at a familiar face. Wasn't this Master Ken Yue? Hello, Master Ken. I am troubling you at this late hour. Tang Wuling had calmed down by the time he got here. While he spoke, there was a hint of embarrassment on his face. Ken Yue walked towards him and rested a hand on his shoulder. That's nothing. No time is too late to witness a miracle. Let's head over then. He hadn't say anything more as he guided Tang Wuling towards the forging workshop where the examination would be conducted. As he entered the workshop, Tang Wuling was blown off. There wasn't just one examiner within the workshop. He had cited Mu Chen as well as Mu Zai. President? Hello, President. Tang Wuling gave a quick bow before greeting Mu Zai. Hello, Senior. Ever since their fight, Mu Zai hadn't approached him with trouble anymore. To meet her again, Tang Wuling felt indifferent to it. Mu Zai's expression, on the other hand, was filled with fire when she stared at him. This kid, is it possible? He's actually coming to take on the 3rd rank examination? This is unbelievable. Mu Chen grinned. Wuling, your breath seems unstable. I would recommend you calm yourself down before the examination. Tang Wuling felt his heartbeat. Thank you, President. I'll adjust myself then. Sorry to keep all of you waiting. As he spoke, he settled into a sitting position on the ground. His eyes observed his nose watched his mouth shut his heart as he entered the meditative state. Ken Yue looked at Mu Chen and whispered to him, what do you think? Do you think he will succeed? Mu Chen smiled. Though I've only seen him a couple of times, his character is much more mature than most kids his age. If he didn't have any certainty, he wouldn't have turned up. He must have met with something to come seeking you so urgently today. If not, he wouldn't have rushed here at this hour in the night to complete the examination. After his examination ends, you can ask him. I've also seen that his 2nd rank tasks have grown in difficulty. These are the tasks at the peak of the 2nd ranks. Ken Yue smiled. It seems that we have similar guesses. President has the same thought as me. We're all focusing on this little kid. Mu Chen grinned. This might be the only genius craftsman from our East Sea City. As a president, how can I not be aware of that? Tang Wuling didn't actually enter complete meditation but had drawn support from his soul power and adjusted its circulation. This was done in order to calm himself down and balance out his emotions. After 20 minutes, he grew more stable when he regained his standing position. President, Master Ken, and examiners, I am now ready. Tang Wuling bowed towards these 3 individuals. Compared to his current state, the state he had been in when he just arrived was vastly different when one examined his breath, as well as the calmness that was now present in his eyes. Chapter 95. Geniuses, wait for me. Mu Zai stood on the side with the cool of a bystander. Although she was unconvinced by this boy who was even younger than her, she still paid attention to him. She refused to acknowledge him, but she had to admit that Tang Wuling's temperament was better than hers. If she had been the one to take the 3rd rank test instead of him, she would definitely need far more time to calm her heart. After all, the 1,000 refinements was vastly different from the 100 refinements. Unless one entered a state of complete focus for the forging, it was basically impossible to succeed. The surveyor said, the 3rd rank blacksmith's test only has one task: complete 1,000 refinements. You may choose any metal you wish to 1,000 refine, but keep in mind that the degree of your 1,000 refinements and the difficulty level of the metal you choose will determine your final score. Yes. Tang Wuling respectfully answered before he turned around and walked over to the shelf upon which the metals were displayed. I must pass this test. He swept his gaze over the various metals once before taking a chunk of heavy silver from the top. Amongst the uncommon metals displayed, heavy silver was the one he was the most familiar with. Moreover, it had been the first metal he had ever 1,000 refined and forged. Although it had a higher difficulty than other metals, Tang Wuling was already exceptionally skilled at entering a state of total concentration. He also had an understanding of the heavy silver's structure and could communicate with it. When they saw that Tang Wuling had actually chosen heavy silver, both Mu Chen and Ken Yue were startled while fury ignited within Mu Zai's eyes. This guy is simply too arrogant. Heavy silver. Even a fourth-rank blacksmith wouldn't be confident enough to 1,000 refine it successfully every time. Heavy silver is an exceedingly difficult uncommon metal. The surveyor warned him kindly. Tang Wuling, are you certain that you want to choose this metal? Although you are able to 100 refine heavy silver, I must warn you that the 1,000 refinements is completely different from the 100 refinements. The difference isn't as simple as just a difference of numbers, but rather, you must infuse spirit into the metal. You need to think about this clearly. I am certain, Tang Wuling calmly responded. From beginning to end, his eyes had never left the chunk of heavy silver before him. He clamped the heavy silver onto the forging table with practiced movements. Then the metal went into the furnace and began to heat up. Tang Wuling's breathing was already beginning to adjust to a routine. In that moment, the outside world completely disappeared from his gaze, leaving only the heavy silver on the forging table in both his eyes and heart. It was almost as if he could hear the metal breathing within the furnace as it heated. He could feel it thirsting for change, just like him. 100 tempers to become steel, 1,000 forgings enters the soul. Tang Wuling spread his arms to receive his pair of 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers, both appearing with a dull grey light into his hands. After all the time he spent forging with these blood-sacrificed hammers, they had already become an extension of his body. The spiral pattern on the hammer shafts fit perfectly in the hollow of his palm. It felt as perfect as water was harmonious. Mu Chen and Ken Yue had good judgment, so when they saw him take out the heavy silver hammers, their gazes grew rapt with attention. Just how much did heavy silver weigh? In order to have enough to forge a hammer, 100 refined heavy silver had to be used at the very least. They could clearly imagine how much those hammers weighed, yet Tang Wuling lifted them as easily as a feather. With the hammers in hand, Tang Wuling silently took in the smell of the heavy silver calcining. Suddenly, the hammer in his right hand shot out and lightly tapped a button on the forging table. Soon after, the glowing red heavy silver came up from the furnace. Without any sort of prelude, the hammer in Tang Wuling's left hand shot out. Ding ding ding. 3 crisp notes rang out, resounding towards the blacksmith's present. That ear-splitting boom had been 3 sounds in one. Sparks flew off the heavy silver as well as the hearts of Mu Chen and Ken Yue. Stacked hammers. He actually has forging hammers with the stacked hammers effect. 1,000 refined. Are his hammers actually 1,000 refined? Just how heavy are they? How monstrous is his strength? While they stood there in shock, Tang Wuling was already brandishing the hammer in his right hand. Ding ding ding. Another set of rumbling sounds roared. With increasing strength, Tang Wuling swung his blood-sacrificed 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers. His hammers were like howling winds and torrential rains as they continuously smashed the chunk of heavy silver. He swung his arms, pounding the metal, causing the entire table to tremble. Yet, he stood as steady as Mount Tai. Above all else, his gaze never left the heavy silver as he continued his single-minded forging. As he forged the heavy silver, it gave rise to a familiar voice which Tang Wuling focused on. With each strike of his hammers, Tang Wuling was able to hear the carefree song of the metal. Bit by bit, the impurities were dispelled and the metal grew harmonious on the inside. Under the powerful stacked hammers effect of his blood-sacrificed 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers, the chunk of heavy silver reduced in size so quickly that the process was visible to the human eye. Tang Wuling's heavy silver hammers were incredibly heavy, and with the addition of their stacked hammers effect, each strike was equivalent to 10 strikes from his 1,000 refined tungsten hammers. In order to ensure success in this exam, he had taken many things into consideration and had come to the conclusion that only with his heavy silver hammers could he display his true strength. After Tang Wuling's 3 hammer strikes, Mu's eye had already been stunned into foolishly staring at him in awe. As the daughter of a Saint craftsman, how could she not know the significance of the stacked hammers effect? Moreover, the effect the hammers had on the heavy silver clearly showed just how heavy the hammers were. Even with such heavy hammers, Tang Wuling was able to exercise complete control over them, to the point where they were like an extension of his own body. Just how much strength would one need to be able to accomplish such a feat? But the funny thing was, she had tried to obstruct him in the academy before. Now that he had revealed his forging prowess, regardless of whether it was his understanding of heavy silver or his control of strength, she simply couldn't compare with him. Tang Wuling assaulted the chunk of heavy silver with his hammers that were like a howling wind and a torrential rain, whilst he himself stood as steady as Mount Tai, steadily forging the metal. The silver luster gradually disappeared from the heavy silver. In its place were deep cloudy lines. Tang Wuling's heart was steady and as peaceful as water. In that moment, all other thoughts had been cast to the back of his mind, leaving his heart and soul focused only on forging. This was how he entered a state of complete concentration. His heart and spirit became one as he continued to forge not just the metal, but his spiritual power. Ding 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 ding. One perfect hammer strike followed after another without pause, making the heavy silver hammer seem as though they were merely a streaking silver light. They unceasingly pounded the chunk of metal, condensing it, compressing it, and purifying it. It had already been 3 months since he had learned how to 1,000 refine. Since then, this was only the second time he attempted the 1,000 refinements. This was 3 months of preparation, 3 months of soul power cultivation, 3 months of maturing. All of his experiences in these last 3 months now underwent a catharsis as he forged. Bang bang bang. He finally finished his 1,000 refinements with a strike from his right hammer, causing a threefold violent boom to resound throughout the room. That chunk of heavy silver had already reduced in volume by a third of its original, and its dark red coloring was quickly fading away. In its place was an overflowing dark cloudy pattern. Tang Wuling was drenched in sweat as he waved his hammers a bit to disperse their momentum. Afterward, the 2 hammers disappeared into his bracelet with a brilliant light. The rumbling of metal being forged still filled the chamber, leaving no room for any other sounds. Too fast. He had finished too fast. From beginning to end, he had only taken half an hour to forge the heavy silver. A metal as dense as heavy silver had been 1,000 refined in half an hour. The surveyor didn't even need to take a look as she already knew from experience that this chunk of 1,000 refined heavy silver would receive full marks. The dark cloudy pattern that spread all over the metal was already enough proof. Stacked hammers. He has a pair of stacked hammers. Mang Tian is simply too much, Ken Yue exclaimed in admiration. Mu Chen's gaze was focused on Tang Wuling, watching his state of total concentration gradually subside. Did you forge these hammers yourself? Mu Chen asked. Tang Wuling nodded. It was only after he affirmed it that he began to feel regret, but it was already too late. His mind had still been focused on forging, and he hadn't had the strength to think about his answer. Mu Chen laughed. Only something that you forged yourself and used blood sacrifice on would be so compatible with you. Congratulations. From this moment on, you're a 3rd-rank blacksmith. They didn't need the surveyor to announce his score. In fact, the surveyor was also at a loss as to what to do. With such a high-level 1,000 refined heavy silver, it would even receive full marks for the 4th-rank blacksmith's test. He only had to fulfill a few other skill requirements in order to become a 4th-rank blacksmith now. Naturally, the 4th-rank blacksmith's test wasn't just on the 1,000 refinements. One had to be able to 1,000 refine 3 different types of metal in a row. Moreover, the 3 metals had to be forged into specific forms in order to pass. Thus, it was still impossible with Tang Wuling's current strength and soul power. Releasing a long sigh, Tang Wuling somewhat bashfully said to Mu Chen, "Thank you, President." Mu Chen spoke with a smile. "Don't mention it. Our association didn't nurture you anyway. Everything you possess had been gained through your own strength. I'm glad that you're here in East City. From now on, you are a 3rd-rank blacksmith as well as a grandmaster blacksmith. Even though I hope you won't grow arrogant, I must still inform you that in the entire history of our continent, you are the youngest 3rd-rank blacksmith." Tang Wuling was stunned. It wasn't until now that he understood why his teacher hadn't wanted him to take the 3rd-rank blacksmith's test. Mu Chen said, "You have brought glory not just to yourself, but also to our Blacksmiths Association branch in East City. If you have any requests from the association, then the association will do its best to aid you." Tang Wuling hesitated for a moment before raising his head. His gaze gradually grew more and more resolute. "President, I want to take a loan from the association. Is that possible?" Mu Chen wasn't surprised by Tang Wuling's words. He had long since guessed that Tang Wuling had some purpose for coming to take the test so late in the evening. "What do you need the loan for?" Tang Wuling clenched his fists. "I want to become strong. I want to buy some things to improve myself. That's what I need the money for." Mu Chen asked, "Can you tell me what you want to buy? Our Blacksmiths Association still has some influence within the city and maybe we can help you save some money." Tang Wuling went silent for a moment before he spoke. "I need 100-year ice crystal fruit, 100-year scarlet flame fruit, and 10 drops of 100-year dragon bloodline beast blood." Tang Wuling had this brazen idea ever since he had run out of the dining hall. With the current strength of him, Shishi, and Gu Yue, it was clear that they were no match for Class 1's trio of 2-ring soul grandmasters. But if he was able to absorb some of the golden dragon king's soul and gain control of its tremendous power, something which had even caused his martial soul to mutate, then perhaps they would have a chance at victory. He truly wished to become powerful so that he wouldn't be a burden on his teammates. In a week's time, he had to become a 3rd-rank blacksmith and complete as many tasks as possible. Then maybe he would have enough money. But he then realized that a 3rd-rank blacksmith had many more privileges within the association. Thus, he thought to bring up the possibility of taking out a loan. He wanted to absorb the Golden Dragon King's soul and join his comrades in this crucial match of the class promotion tournament. Mu Chen looked at him with an unfathomably deep gaze. Are you aware that spirit fruits may harm the body? Tang Wuling responded. I know. I am certain of this. Mu Chen nodded. But then, the association will give you these 3 things. As for their value, you can complete tasks and slowly pay them off. Tang Wuling stared at Mu Chen. In that moment he only felt a blazing fire ignite within his heart. Geniuses of class 1, wait for me. Chapter 96, Mu Chen's guess. Tang Wuling only had to wait less than half an hour before Mu Chen brought out 2 boxes and a small bottle, placing them in his hands. Treasuring their important weight, he took the 3 items. Tang Wuling didn't speak as he gave Mu Chen a deep bow. While putting icing on the cake was easy, gifting coal when snowing was hard. To him, these 3 items were the same as giving away coal when it was snowing. Ken Yue brought Tang Wuling with him to accept a task that could only be completed by a 3rd-rank blacksmith and then personally sent him out of the association. Afterward, he moved towards the highest level of the building, the office of Mu Chen, the president of East City's Blacksmiths Association. Seeing him, Mu Chen smiled. I knew you would come find me. President, we found the 3 items for him straight away. Do you think it was too easy for him to obtain it? If a youth acquires items this easily, they wouldn't know how to treasure it. Furthermore, hasn't the association given him too much preferential treatment? Doing this may not be advantageous to his growth, Ken Yue said with much doubt. Mu Chen grinned. Those 3 items should be what he currently needs urgently. Didn't you notice? He looked quite anxious today. With his young age, he wouldn't be able to fake these signs. That means that he was in dire need of those 3 items, but he had some difficulty financially in acquiring them. Thus his rush to sit the examination to qualify as a 3rd-rank blacksmith. This was so that he could accept tasks of higher rank and hence receive a greater sum of remuneration. I only made use of my authority and loaned these items to him. With his talent and potential, the association won't incur a loss. This is the first point. Secondly, you would also have noticed that he had completed the 3rd-rank examination easily. With your skills as a 6th-rank blacksmith, how long would it take you to 1,000 refine heavy silver? With your level of soul power and wealth of experience, would you be twice as fast as he is? Ken Yue didn't try to hide his deep thoughts. I can't deny that this child is a prodigy for being able to be won with a medal at such a young age, and whilst fully concentrated, he hadn't broken out of focus a single time during the entire process. It wouldn't be a problem for him to enter the spirit forging realm. Adding on his innate divine strength, even if he was restricted by his soul power, he would be capable of reaching 6th rank blacksmith at the very least. He will definitely surpass 19. Mu Chen caught a gleam of admiration within Ken Yue's eyes. He grinned, saying, not only you, even I'm jealous of 19 as well. He has truly found a genius that's out of this world. This child not only has a strong foundation, but is also very talented. You said that he wouldn't treasure those items because they were easily obtained? I'm not worried about that. It's very simple. For him to easily enter that state of concentration and understanding of the metals, it proves that this child has a calmness that surpasses his peers. Also, did you notice that all 3 items he needed were for increasing his body strength? If I'm right, the greatest benefit from combining the scarlet flame fruit and ice crystal fruit would be that it promotes his physical strength by constantly forging it under fire and ice. With his innate divine strength, would increasing his physical strength be a bad thing? Blood from a dragon-type beast could be related to his martial soul. His eyes were also full of confidence when he collected those items, so I believe that giving those items to him will give him immense benefits. Actually, the question I'm considering is not if the association has given him too much preferential treatment, but rather, what methods should we utilize to assist him in increasing his soul power in the future? Although entering the spirit forging realm could be done with his innate divine strength and astounding perception, but to enter into the high level, the soul forging realm, he would require even greater amounts of soul power to be able to support it. As Ken Yue listened to Mu Chen's analysis, an expression of admiration formed. He truly was worthy of the title of president. Within a few short moments of meeting Tang Wuling, he was able to do so much. Mu Chen lifted his head and looked at Ken Yue as he spoke deeply. This child's existence must be kept a secret. We can't let anybody from the other branches know about him. I am pinning my hopes onto him, so that when he reveals his true colors in the main association in the future, he will bring some glory to our branch. Ken Yue laughed. Please rest assured, President, I have already informed the relevant people. I have always thought that you were impartial, but now it doesn't seem to be completely true. Hee. Mu Chen gave a sly grin. I'm very clear of what Mang Tian was thinking. This Tang Wuling kid, his ability to complete the 1,000 refinements definitely isn't something that had happened recently. It must have been Mang Tian that told him to hide it. That's why he didn't move up to the 3rd rank during his first examination. Mang Tian was really hoping that Tang Wuling would shock the world with his abilities in the future, eventually becoming a saint craftsman in the soul forging realm. I have my own hopes as well. In the last 30 years, he is the only child I've seen who might be able to attain the heavenly refinements and become this generation's divine blacksmith genius. Tang Wuling, however, was clueless about the high evaluations Mu Chen had given him. He didn't head back to the academy. Instead, he had gone to the forging workshop not far from the association. Tang Wuling didn't know what would happen when he removed the seal. Until now, he was still unsure if the existence within his body was real. This trial would prove everything to him. He didn't want to attract any unwanted attention in the dormitory if something unexpected happened. Woo. Gales howled as the typhoon entered East City, bringing heavy rain and strong currents of wind along with it. When Tang Wuling rushed into the workshop, it had already become dark and gloomy outside, and a thunderstorm had started. He forced the doors shut and checked the windows. The workshop was undoubtedly a sturdy place in itself. After he had done his checks, Tang Wuling let out a sigh of relief. Despite the endless humming of the wind and the pitter-patter of rain on the windows, Tang Wuling felt something strange inside of him. It was a blessed feeling, yes. Despite the chaos brought about by the hurricane outside, he was fortunate enough to be able to hide within the solid walls of this small shelter, free from the attacks of the wind and rain. This was something to be blessed about, wasn't it? He took out the 3 items from the pale blue soul storage ring the association had given him and placed them on the table. Reaching out, he brought a chair towards him and sat down. His heartbeat visibly grew faster. The Golden Dragon King, the golden figure spoke of should be real since there had been some strange occurrences in his body, and these 3 items should be of use in removing the first seal. Tang Wuling opened the first box with great care. The box was made out of exquisite material. Just by opening it, he felt a gush of hot air flowing from the box and into the room, increasing the room's temperature by a few degrees. It had also chased away the chill Tang Wuling had caught while escaping from the thunderstorm. There was a scarlet-colored fruit within the box, and it was a whole circle bigger than the fruit he saw at the auction house. The golden glow it emitted was also denser. Similarly, the heat waves coming from the top of the fruit was stronger. A mere look in Tang Wuling could imagine how blazing hot the fruit actually was. He quickly opened the second box. With a push to open the lid, he felt a wave of coolness creep from the box, filling the room that had just been warmed up by the scarlet flame fruit. With its chilliness, it brought down the temperature back to normal, giving off a pale blue glow. The thumbnail-sized 100-year ice crystal fruit was resting in the box calmly, emitting a translucent light. Their mere appearances were sufficient in drawing stares and attention. Ice and fire, these 2 different elemental types had barely offset the other's effects and prevented the room's temperature from fluctuating. But as Tang Wuling opened the lid of the ice crystal fruit's box, he felt that the light it exuded had grown significantly stronger, as if it were trying to compete with the strength of its shine. What do I do now? Do I just eat them? Tang Wuling was a bit helpless at this moment. He didn't know how he should prepare these 2 fruits. After he felt the energy emitted from both fruits, he didn't dare to place them in his mouth. President Mu Chen had just told him that consuming spirit fruits would not necessarily bring him any benefits, as it might also produce adverse effects. It would be best to ask him then. Tang Wuling shut both his eyes and concentrated hard with all his might. He called out in his mind, "Are you there? I found the 3 items. Are you there?" He didn't even know how to summon the golden figure, and this was the only method he could try. There was no reply. Tang Wuling felt somewhat foolish at that moment. Although the process of getting a hold of these 2 spirit fruits and the bottle of blood of a 100-year dragon-type soul beast was fairly easy, he would have to pay it back eventually. Could it be that it had been merely a dream? You have found everything. Just then, a calm voice sounded in his mind. Chapter 97, Spirit Item Fusion. You found everything. When he heard the voice, it was as if a gong had been struck inside his head, causing him to feel a bout of nausea as he once again entered that dark space. The ephemeral golden figure appeared before him. He hadn't entered this world in his sleep this time, but rather, he had entered while completely awake. For him, this confirms that everything before his eyes was real. I think I have everything. Tang Wuling nervously looked at the golden figure before him before summoning up his courage to say, "What should I call you?" That golden figure seemed to freeze for a moment, before it slowly answered, "You can just call me Old Tang." Old Tang. He wasn't sure why, but when Tang Wuling said this name, a strange feeling stirred within his heart. His family name is also Tang, the same as me. It's just a name. Well then, time waits for no one. I have already sensed the aura of those 3 heaven and earth treasures. It must have been difficult for you to find them in such a short period of time. Are you ready to break the first seal now? Tang Wuling blinked in astonishment a few times. Do I still need to do any more preparations? Old Tang profoundly said, you need to prepare many things. Endurance, strength, courage, and dedication. When you break the first seal, you will experience unfathomable suffering. This pain may drive you to insanity or cause you to give up. If you don't have the qualities I spoke of, then you will be unable to bear the seal's power. If you are driven to insanity, then you may lose all hope of recovering. Startled, Tang Wuling stared at Old Tang. You didn't tell me this last time. Last time you said I only needed to find these 3 items. Old Tang indifferently spoke. Don't tell me you actually thought it would be so easy to undo the seal that is preventing your death. In this world, there is nothing you can obtain without putting in the work. In order to obtain something, you must pay forward an equivalent amount, regardless of whether this happens in your life or in your cultivation. Everything is like this. As a soul master, if you don't put in the hard work to withstand pain and loneliness surpassing others and possess a will stronger than ordinary people, how could you possibly become powerful? The situation you are currently faced with is also the same. The portion of the golden dragon king soul that is contained within this first seal will fuse with and transform your body. If the fusion succeeds, then your strength will increase in every aspect. In the process of fusing with it, the first thing you need to do is endure the pain. Although you are still young, you have no other choice but to do so. Tang Wuling remained silent. Even though he was young, his father had always been instructing him on how to conduct himself. He understood that everything Old Tang said was for his sake. Since I have no other choice, I will definitely succeed. Tang Wuling's expression grew resolute as he spoke this. He still wanted to go search for his parents and Naya. He also needed to help his comrades attain victory in the class promotion tournament. If not to become strong, then for what reason had he obtained these 3 treasures? It was due to these reasons that he didn't cower at all in the face of those risks. Please tell me what I need to do now, Tang Wuling said. Old Tang said, you now need to find a quiet place, a place people won't visit or disturb you for at least several days. After you have done this, you will need some sort of vessel that you can seal. You will put the 2 spirit fruits into the vessel and pour the 100-year dragon type beast blood over it. Then you will seal the vessel and wait for the contents within it to calm. Finally, you will drink everything within the vessel. Only then will you be ready to break the first seal. Okay. Old Tang said, after you have done this, I will guide you in breaking the first seal. You must remember, however, that before you take this medicine, you must be in your best state and your heart must be tranquil. Tang Wuling opened his eyes once again and was met with the familiar sight of the forging workshop from before. Similarly, outside the workshop everything was still in chaos from the wind and rain. The hum of the wind and pitter-patter of the rain grew louder and louder. Soon it was accompanied by roaring thunder. It was as if the heavens and earth had been torn asunder. Tang Wuling glanced at the 3 treasures for a moment before taking out his soul communicator and dialing Shishi's number. Hello? Wuling, why haven't you come back yet? The hurricane has already hit us. Where are you right now? Shishi's static-filled voice fired questions at him in rapid succession. The hurricane was now affecting their communicators' transmissions. Tang Wuling calmly responded, I'm fine. I finished my business at the Blacksmiths Association before the hurricane struck, and now I'm taking shelter in my forging workshop. It's too windy and rainy outside, so I'm unable to return at the moment. Fortunately, I can just complete some forging tasks in the downtime. I'm calling you to assure you that I'm fine. Did you get all of that? Your voice is a bit fuzzy, but I could understand most of what you said. Everything is good as long as you're fine. The hurricane also came at an opportune time. Just wait for this big brother to cultivate hard for the next few days and see if I can make a breakthrough and become a 2-ring soul grandmaster. If I can, then we'll beat up those bastards from class 1. Tang Wuling said, don't get ahead of yourself. Safety is still our #1 priority. Shishi let out a mischievous laugh. You can be at ease. I'll be fine. Teacher Wu is paying special attention to me. The 3 of us were originally supposed to undergo special training together, but you didn't come back. I'll cover for you for a couple of days. Just quickly come back once the hurricane has died down a little. All right. After hanging up his communicator, Tang Wuling looked at the window and the door once again. He checked that everything had been locked up before returning to the table. Getting ahead of himself. He was the one getting ahead of himself in his enthusiasm to make a breakthrough. After all, what would he become afterward? It was really easy to find a sealable vessel inside of the workshop. After all, it had been one of the first things he had learned to forge, and he could also just quickly forge it if he couldn't find one. He took the metal cup and placed it on top of the table. Do I begin now? No. Old Tang said I must be in my best state. I must be calm and steady. He began meditating and regulating his breathing. He recovered some of the soul power he had expended and gradually stilled his mind. After some time had passed, he awoke from his meditative state with his body in peak condition. Amidst the sounds of the wind and rain, Tang Wuling unhesitatingly got up and put the 200-year fruits, the ice crystal fruit and the scarlet flame fruit, into the metal cup. Afterward, he swiftly opened up the porcelain bottle and poured the fishy smelling dark violet blood into the cup. A powerful wave of energy began overflowing from the cup, causing the entire cup to begin trembling. Tang Wuling hastily covered the cup with its lid, sealing it before holding it close to his chest. A succession of explosions began to rumble within the cup. Tang Wuling nearly let go of the cup as it was scarlet red with heat. The intensity of the rumbling increased even further. The red coloring began to fade and in its place was a layer of frost. He was vaguely able to hear the roar of a dragon within the cup. The scarlet flame fruit and ice crystal fruit were both spirit fruit treasures. After reaching 100 years, they had already gained a trace of intelligence. Fire and ice were 2 extremes, and together, a violent rejection would naturally occur. When restrained within the small cup, this violent rejection became even fiercer, and the 2 began to mutually attack the other. The 100-year dragon-type soul beast blood was what increased their effects as well as what brought the 2 into harmony. These 3 spirit items mixed together to quietly created a fantastic reaction. Tang Wuling subconsciously drew back a few steps. He had sensed that within the metal cup was a powerful energy that wanted to break free. It's not going to actually explode, right? All of my efforts would go to waste then. Fortunately, the small explosions booming within the metal cup gradually died down. The cup was now intermittently changing between a flaming red and an icy blue color as it calmed. Despite this, Tang Wuling could still sense an immensely powerful energy emanating from within the metal cup. He didn't know where this feeling came from, but it had somehow made its way into his mind. That was wrong. This feeling hadn't come naturally. It was only after he opened the bottle of dragon-type soul beast blood that this feeling came about. Everything he felt was caused by that dragon blood. Old Tang's words echoed within his mind. He didn't dare to delay and hastily stepped forward to pick up the metal cup. Its temperature was oddly normal, nearly a bit warm. After unsealing the cup, a reeking, strange smell assaulted his senses, causing Tang Wuling to nearly sneeze. Chapter 98. Taking the spirit medicine. An indecipherable, deep purple liquid bubbled constantly within the cup, like the murky waters of a swamp. With no other choice, Tang Wuling closed his eyes, furrowed his brows, and lifted the metal cup, emptying it. Unexpectedly, the taste of the liquid wasn't as bad as it smelled, and upon entering his mouth, it gave him a miraculously warm feeling. It tasted slightly sweet and fishy and had a tang to it, as if he was consuming a sea urchin. It was both smooth and slimy and stuck to his throat before he swallowed it down. The warmth spread throughout his body, leaving him unspeakably comfortable. Tang Wuling couldn't help but release a sigh. This mouthful had costed him hundreds of thousands of Federation coins, and it was already gone. No, it might have been even more than that. Although he didn't personally buy these items, the blood of a 100-year dragon-type soul beast should have been a sought-after item that would fetch a sky-high price. What should I do now? Tang Wuling was dazed for a while, but he sobered up in a flash. Taking 2 steps back, he sat in a meditative position. He chose to avoid sitting on the chair to prevent the possibility of falling to the ground if something happened during his meditation to cause his body to react. Concentrate, meditate, and circulate soul power. This should be it. By circulating his soul power, he should be able to dissolve the effects of the medicine. Tang Wuling had a thought. How is old Tang going to help me break the first seal? Suddenly, a strange feeling overcame him from every corner of his body. It felt as though vitality was flowing into his blood, as if steam was rushing out of every pore in his body. This sudden heat left Tang Wuling feeling unbearable, and he could barely remain in his seated position. His temperature rose, his body similar to a furnace. Sweat poured from his body like a waterfall. Tang Wuling couldn't control the heat within him and started trembling violently. A faint golden pattern started appearing on his forehead, growing until they covered his whole body. The golden patterns, in the shape of rhombuses, appeared faint at first, but they slowly grew clearer. Tang Wuling's body became as red as a cooked prawn. So hot, so hot. Tang Wuling clenched his teeth and persevered, as old Tang had previously said that he should have strength, endurance and dedication. The weak soul power within him had seemingly escaped his control and began surging throughout his body. Tang Wuling could no longer maintain his state of meditation and felt that his surroundings were turning blood red. Could it be that my body is actually melting? Tang Wuling's body trembled, and the golden webs on his body became even clearer. Suddenly, the heat disappeared like subsiding waves, and with it, the unbearably miserable feeling. After reaching equilibrium, this level of comfort would normally not be reached, but comforting relief from misery would easily cause intoxication. Currently in such a state, Tang Wuling relaxed after going through that agony and felt like his body had been thoroughly exfoliated by the immense heat previously coursing through his body. It left him with no energy. He couldn't even lift up a finger. Without waiting for his mind to relax, a sudden wave of chilliness emerged from his heart and spread throughout his body. Like the heat before, this chilliness circulated right into the depths of his body. The redness that had lingered on his skin was replaced by a pale blue. Tang Wuling's body trembled with more violence. The only thing that wasn't trembling as much was the golden webbed pattern. The golden webbed pattern had become even more distinct than before. His body began emitting biting cold instead of extreme heat. The change leaving his clothes in ruin, torn to shreds. The scraps of clothing fell off his body. Exhausted completely, his mere rank 12 soul power was unable to relieve some of his suffering. It was so cold that his blood would freeze soon. Tang Wuling could only feel his heartbeat falling at an alarming rate. His vision blurring out. Are these the effects of the 100-year ice crystal fruit and scarlet flame fruit? It's so painful. Tang Wuling was unaware that with these two spirit fruits of like age, a process called fire ice body refining that could be used to increase his physical strength. This was a dangerous process for most. However, as the sudden change from temperature extremes could cause a weakling to collapse. To prevent that, a fruit with balancing properties of higher age was necessary to ensure safety. More importantly, the body refining process required a soul master with a significantly higher cultivation to guide and protect the body refiner. To Mu Chen, it was obvious that Mang Tian would help guide Tang Wuling in the process, but he didn't expect Tang Wuling to have consumed all 3 spirit items by himself, alone. These were 100-year spirit fruits, and even a soul elder with 3 rings would have been hurt badly in the process, leaving hidden traces of incurable diseases in them. Not to mention the fact that Tang Wuling had nearly cultivated to rank 12 soul power. Finally, after an unknown period of time, the extreme cold subsided, and Tang Wuling's mental state recovered. Paralyzed, he could only feel numbness throughout his body, as if his body was no longer his. Despite this, he felt strangely clear-headed and could clearly see the patterns of golden webs shimmering brightly on his body, as though his body was wrapped up within a huge web. Old Tang, where are you? What should I do? Tang Wuling thought mentally, but old Tang didn't reply him at all, as if his existence had always been a mere nightmare. Tang Wuling knew he had no other routes to escape to, so he could do nothing other than allowing these 3 spiritual items to wreak havoc within his body. At this time, his body regained mobility, and he felt the comfortable feeling once again. He did not let his guard down. However, first was the immense heat followed by extreme coldness. What would be the effects of the dragon-type soul beast's blood? What type of suffering would it be this time? The facts had proven his guess right. Immense heat and extreme coldness were both unbearable, but they were nothing compared to what he felt next. It seemed as if there were tiny ants slowly crawling up his limbs and drilling into his muscles, organs, and bones. Tang Wuling couldn't bear it anymore and screamed bitterly. He wanted to scratch at the sensations, but his body wouldn't move at all. Even worse was his mind's currently exceptional clarity. He could fully experience the inhumane agony. This suffering was too hard to bear with. Why? Why did this happen? Tang Wuling's whole body shook violently. Can't take it. I can't take it anymore. If you can't take this, then only death awaits you. If you want to live on, you have to bear this. If you are able to face any sufferings bravely, you will be able to overcome them. Learn to persevere and the doors to success will open to you. Old Tang's voice finally appeared once again, but he sounded somber this time. Tang Wuling's spirit shook. That's right. I can't give up. If I can't break the seal, I would only be greeted with death. I can't die. There are still many things I have yet to accomplish. I want to be strong. I want to be a powerful mecha master and to be able to use a mecha crafted out of the metals I forged myself. I need to search for Mom and Dad too, and Naya as well. I want to become a powerful soul master and a powerful mecha master. I want to live on. There are so many beautiful things for me to experience in this world. In his heart, a strong feeling of defiance grew within, and it seemingly reduced his suffering as well as the numbness and itchiness, which retreated from his bones and back to his spine. What Tang Wuling couldn't see was the changing color of the web patterns on his body, as it had turned from gold to purple. The purple color didn't stay for long, the patterns shifting back to a gold that shone even brighter than before. It was as if the purplish color had nourished the golden pattern before subsiding thereafter. Tang Wuling's numbness and itchiness gradually disappeared as well, and he panted heavily. Feeling returned to his body once again, and he realized that he could move all his limbs. What is happening? Could it be that I have recovered already? It's done. Has the seal been broken? Be prepared. This is just the beginning. Old Tang's icy voice resounded within his mind. This is just the beginning. 3 feelings, immense heat, extreme cold, as well as numbness and itchiness, had all reappeared suddenly without giving Tang Wuling any time to react. At that point, Tang Wuling felt as though he had been engulfed. As he continued releasing his piercing screams, his vision gradually turned white. Chapter 99, the eve of the first grade's decisive battle. East the Academy. The hurricane struck East the City this time with a suddenness, throwing the entire city into chaos. Stores were unable to do business, schools were unable to teach, and communications had been paralyzed. Every single department of the city's administration was completely swamped with work. The hurricane lasted a whole week. At its peak, it was even able to uproot large trees and bring about great destruction to the buildings. Fortunately, it had now passed. After the hurricane, East the City appeared fresher than before. A thin mist created a veil in the air while sunshine sprinkled the earth. Occasionally, the two would combine to create a rainbow off in the clear horizon. What's going on with that guy? He still hasn't answered his communicator. Maybe the communicator ran out of power and we can't get through to him anymore. Shishi currently wasn't in the mood to go outside and appreciate the beautiful scenery. He sat in the teacher's building like an anxious cat on a hot tin roof. The reason for his agitation was simple. He couldn't contact Tang Wuling at all. As the hurricane passed by, Shishi had been hard at work cultivating under the guidance of Wu Zhangkong and had been able to make a breakthrough. After making this breakthrough, the first thing he wanted to do was tell all of his good friends. Yet, who could have imagined that he wouldn't be able to get through to Tang Wuling's communicator? More importantly, today was the day they returned to class, yet Tang Wuling was still nowhere to be found. Shishi didn't even know where he'd gone. Returning to class also meant that the class promotion tournament would resume after. Their opponent was the first grade's class 1, the class with the strongest new students in all of the academy's history. Tang Wuling, this guy, where the hell are you? Do you know which workshop he's in? Maybe we can go find him in the afternoon. Yue's brows were creased and her eyes were full of worry. Shishi forced out a bitter smile. I don't have much of an interest in forging, so how would I know where his workshop is? He even called me that day to specially explain that he would be staying at his workshop and he wouldn't have any troubles there. But how come there still isn't any news from him? Could it be that he actually forgot the time? Yue's expression was overcast and gloomy as she steadily said, "What do you know then? Let's go over to the Blacksmiths Association in the afternoon. Maybe his workshop is registered with them." Shishi didn't refute Yue for once, but instead nodded his head and agreed. That's a good idea. Let's go there later. Tang Wuling still hadn't shown up to class, even as it was dismissed at noon. Shishi and Yue went to find Wu Zhangkong before they quickly flew out of the campus, heading straight for the Blacksmiths Association. An hour later, however, they left the Blacksmiths Association with gloomy expressions. The Blacksmiths Association's reply had been very simple. Any information regarding forging spaces registered with the association was confidential and could not be leaked out. It would only be possible if they had the approval of the government. Moreover, Tang Wuling's information was on an even higher level of confidentiality than ordinary blacksmiths. What do we do now? Should we ask Teacher Wu to apply for a government permit and then come back and ask? Yue asked Shishi. Shishi laughed bitterly. We don't have enough time for that. It's easy to get a government permit, but what we're short on is time. Our request definitely wouldn't be approved today while our match is tonight. I'm afraid it'll be up to the two of us to win this battle. Wuling isn't this type of unreliable person. He must have met with some problem that prevented him from coming. Yue raised her head and revealed a sour expression. We can discuss this after we return. Either way, let's first have Teacher Wu apply for a government permit. It's crucial that Wuling is there for our match. A government permit? Wu Zhangkong stared at his two students, his originally ice-cold expression gradually thawing to reveal gloom. Tang Wuling hadn't gone to any of his classes at all and they weren't able to find him anywhere. All right then, you two hurry on back to class first. I will handle this, Wu Zhangkong coldly said. Teacher, then will it just be us two in the match tonight? asked Shishi. Wu Zhangkong shot him a glance. It'll just be the two of you, yes. Shishi and Gu Yue returned to class with hearts full of worry and a sour mood. Although the difference between a 2 versus 2 battle and a 3 versus 3 battle seemed small, and that Tang Wuling was the weakest one among them, they were already accustomed to fighting as a team of 3. Without Tang Wuling, it felt as though they were lacking something. Their afternoon classes flew by quickly. Maybe it was because the week-long hurricane had stifled the students for too long, but when they were dismissed today, many of them gathered at the field. In fact, there were even some teachers present. They were all there to watch the match today. Have you heard? This year's class promotion tournament is full of prodigies. Class 5 has actually been having triumph after triumph and have already won 3 matches. Who knows if this dark horse will continue until the end? Though, stop dreaming. Don't you know how frightening this year's Class 1 is? They're reputed to be the strongest new students in all of the Academy's history. Their class actually has 3 soul grandmasters with powerful martial souls. In comparison, the 3 participants from Class 5 are merely 1 ring soul masters. With a gap between their soul skills and soul power, they don't stand even a chance. I really want to see how far Class 1 can advance in this tournament. I heard that all of the classes in the 2nd grade are presently feeling the pressure of a great mountain upon their backs. Hee hee. Students continuously broke into discussion one after another while the teachers soon arrived in a group. The teacher in charge of the 1st grade's Class 4, Kong Hanwen, had his gaze stuck to the crowd the whole time, searching for something with a grim expression. Teacher Kong, what are you looking for? The teacher in charge of Class 3, Yi Yingrong, suspiciously asked him. Kong Hanwen answered, I'm looking for that bastard, Wu Zhangkong. Isn't he just too arrogant? I want to see if his students can truly prevail today. Kong Hanwen held back a sigh within his heart. After all, his class had been beaten by Tang Wuling's trio, meaning that he was now in charge of the lowest class of the grade. Yi Yingrong let out a gentle sigh. That's right. This year's Class 1 is simply too powerful. I don't think anyone in the 2nd grade can face them either. Even the 2nd grade's Class 1 only has 2 soul grandmasters right now. I think this year's Class 1 will definitely be able to battle all the way until the 3rd grade in this tournament. Kong Hanwen sneered but remained silent. His purpose for coming today was to see how that icily arrogant Prince Charming's face would look after his students lost. They're here, Yi Yingrong said in a hushed tone. Kong Hanwen followed her gaze and sure enough, Wu Zhangkong stood with the rest of Class 5, looking towards the stage. Behind him were 2 of his impressive disciples, Shishi and Gu Yue. What astonished Kong Hanwen, however, was that the pretty boy was nowhere to be found. He seemed to recall that the student's name was Tang Wuling. Right when Wu Zhangkong appeared with his class, an uproar began on the other side. The students quickly parted to make a path. A female teacher in her late 20s led the way enthusiastically. She looked exceptionally similar to Yi Yingrong, with at least 60% of their features being the same. She was even a bit prettier than Yi Yingrong, but had an air of arrogance to her. Following behind her were the highly acclaimed, most powerful new students of Class 1 in recent history. Leading the class was a trio of 3 boys. On the left was the one Tang Wuling, Shishi, and Gu Yue had met previously, Wei Zhofeng. In the middle was a tall youth who seemed calm in comparison to Wei Zhofeng's arrogance. He had a maturity that surpassed that of his peers. On his other side was an extremely thin boy, as if he was made of only skin and bones. He carried an expression full of gloom and iciness. Even his aura was gloomy. In fact, he was so gloomy that no one walked behind him. It seemed that no one wanted to even approach him. The 2 parties assembled on opposite sides of each other on the stage, waiting for the match to begin. Yi Yingrong took brisk steps to the side of that female teacher and greeted in a soft voice. Big sister. Chapter 100. Tang Wuling returns. The teacher for Class 1 of the 1st grade was none other than Yi Yingluo, Yi Yingrong's elder sister and the person whom Wu Zhangkong ruthlessly rejected. Yi Yingluo nodded her head towards her younger sister. Her eyes, however, were involuntarily attracted to the person standing on the other side. She looked at Wu Zhangkong, her eyes a bit complicated. A few days ago, she witnessed the battle between Wu Zhangkong and Guang Biao, and it had etched a deep impression in her mind. But this didn't wipe off the scar that Wu Zhangkong had left in her heart. Which part of me doesn't deserve you? Wu Zhangkong, just you wait. I'll ensure your cheeks will be pressed against the ground, and I'll make that arrogant coldness of yours disappear. Wu Zhangkong felt as though someone was watching him from afar, so he turned around to look. Though Yi Yingluo's heart was full of hatred towards him, she involuntarily tried to pose in her best position when he looked over at her. But what was that look of his? Yi Yingluo was infuriated. When Wu Zhangkong's eyes rested on her, they didn't say at all. Furthermore, his gaze was emotionless when they swept past her, as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Bastard. This person, he's still a bastard. Yi Yingrong saw the expression on her sister's face and knew it meant nothing good. She understood this arrogant sister of hers well enough to know that. Yi Yingluo was given the title of child prodigy when she was younger. Her failure in getting accepted into Shrek Academy had devastated her, changing her into a highly temperamental person. Thus, when she had been rejected by Wu Zhangkong, she became like this. Sister, you should know very well that whatever you do won't help. There is no place for us in this man's eyes. To put it plainly, we have never been on the same level as him. Regardless of what you do, it won't change anything. Of course, Yi Yingrong didn't dare voice these words out loud to her elder sister, as she was highly aware that with her elder sister's temperament, Yi Yingluo might go mad if she was told this. Yangxi, help me teach them a good lesson. Yi Yingluo turned back and barked ferociously at the calm teenager who stood behind her. Yes, teacher. There was a flash of light in the eyes of this teenager by the name of Yangxi before he regained his previously calm demeanor. Director Long Henshu walked up the stage at this point in time. He first nodded his head to both classes' teachers in acknowledgement before he began to speak in a deep voice. This ranking tournament had previously been postponed because of the typhoon. Today will be the 4th match. 1st grade's Class 5 will be competing against 1st grade's Class 1. 1st grade Class 5's teacher Wu. How many participants from your side will compete today? Long Henshu's mood was very complicated at this point in time. He had wanted 1st grade Class 5 to be defeated quickly to prevent those black horses from climbing up. Class sorting was a duty of his, so if these participants from Class 5 were still undefeated, he would be very ashamed of his decisions. The Academy would then question him on his class sorting decisions. In particular, their audit would be on the possibility of 1st grade Class 5 remaining undefeated. This would include some leads into the investigation of Wu Zhangkong's methods of teaching, but would ultimately cover his error in the sorting of students into classes. Wu Zhangkong's display of strength and power that day, however, had aided in easing the difficult situation for him. At least, Wu Zhangkong's teaching ability was recognized by most of the school directors. A direct advancement opportunity was thus created for this teacher Wu into the Advanced Academy. After all, it would be very advantageous for the Academy to have someone this powerful within East Sea Academy. Competitions were rife within academies in every sea, especially so within the intermediate academies. In the Advanced Academies, the sole purpose of these students was to bring glory to their academy by competing against higher ranked academies and winning. As these academies became more renowned, they would naturally attract better students to enroll in their academies. Thus, after what happened that day, Long Henshu didn't really dare to offend Wu Zhangkong. Our class will have. Wu Zhangkong was about to mention that 2 would be competing from his class when a voice traveled to him from behind 1st grade Class 5. Teacher Wu, please wait. Upon hearing this familiar voice, Shishi and Gu Yue, who was standing behind Wu Zhangkong, broke out into surprised grins. The crowd parted, and a worn and weary Tang Wuling rushed to the front. His current appearance starved him from others' compliments as his hair was unkempt and a pale pallor painted the whole of his face. He appeared to be breathing erratically. Where did you run off to? Why did you only come now? Shishi snapped at him. Tang Wuling grimaced as he answered. It's a long story. Let's compete first. Teacher Wu, I'm able to battle. Wu Zhangkong looked towards him with an expressionless face and nodded his head before speaking to Long Henshu again. We have 3 participants from our class. Long Henshu replied. 1st grade's Class 1 may select 3 students to compete as well. Yi Yingluo tilted her head upward. Fine. Long Henshu spoke again. Participants from both classes, please enter. Gu Yue moved towards Tang Wuling's side and whispered. Do you think you can compete? How's your body? While she could see that there was something wrong with Tang Wuling, his body emitted an aura that further befuddled her. I'm fine. Tang Wuling had regained, once again, that grin of confidence from before. Gu Yue nodded her head. Let's win together. Tang Wuling moved to occupy the center position once more. Shishi and Gu Yue were positioned behind him as the trio walked together up towards the stage. On the other side, Class 1's 3 students entered the stage as well. I'm Zhang Yangxi, said the calm teenager in the center. Wei Zhofeng, we've met a while ago. Wei Xiaofeng reached out his hand and stuck out his thumb before slowly twisting his wrist downward, issuing a provocative move. You. Shishi was infuriated and was about to rush up towards him, but was prevented from doing so by Tang Wuling grabbing his shoulder. Shishi was shocked as he eyed Tang Wuling. This guy's strength grew again. Wang Jingxi. The wiry student from Class 1 introduced himself. Tang Wolin introduced his side. First grades Class 5. Tang Wolin. Ua. Shishi's eyes were brimming with iciness as he stared at Wei Zhofeng. Long Henshu observed both teams. There seemed to be a powerful smell of gunpowder even when the match had yet to begin. He scowled as he emphasized again. Let me make myself clear once more. This is a school tournament. In this tournament, there will only be winning and losing, nothing else. No participant shall harm the competitor. If they do so, they will be punished severely by the academy. Understood? All 6 of the participants shouted in unison. Good. Prepare yourselves. Both sides please step back. Under Long Henshu's supervision, both teams moved back and opened up the distance between one another. Start. The crowd hollered out loud in companion to the director's command, signifying the start of the first grade's final match in the tournament. From both sides of Class 1 and Class 5, Wei Zhofeng and Shishi respectively rushed forward at the same time. They had long decided that the other was an eyesore and had since been unable to tolerate one another, even before the start of the match. At that instance, 2 yellow soul rings appeared beneath Wei Zhofeng's feet. At the same time, a green ray of light appeared on his body and a small green snake appeared on his shoulder. Comparing this with Tang Wolin's tiny earthy snake, Gold Light, his snake was vastly different. This small snake was turquoise in color and had a pair of transparent green wings. Although it looked small, it seemed very powerful. What was even more shocking was Wei Zhofeng's apparent changes. He grew more flexible, and his skin now had a green tint. To be an outstanding student in Class 1 and to be able to maintain that title, Wei Zhofeng was obviously not an easy opponent. This was naturally demonstrated by his attainment of the 2-ringed realm at such a young age. His spirit soul was a 100-year green shadow snake. It was an arduous and expensive task to search for this spirit soul which matched his body completely since his martial soul was the green shadow snake. After fusing with this spirit soul, his enhancements when cultivating grew immediately, and within a short span of time, he advanced from 1 ring to 2 rings. However, a 100-year spirit soul could only add 2 soul rings. After 20 ranks, his speed of advancement would greatly depreciate. Nevertheless, the green shadow snake's soul spirit had aided him in building up a strong foundation, allowing his advancement to exceed his peers by far. Wei Zhofeng was also an agility system battle soul master, and as he was charging forward, he flickered from left to right, creating illusions of himself. Although he didn't have Shishi's speed, he seemed to be more agile than Shishi. What shocked Wei Zhofeng the most, however, was the 2 yellow soul rings beneath Shishi's feet. His vigor had increased greatly with the appearance of those 2 yellow rings. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.